Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Savvy Property Investors Show. This is a show for newbie and seasoned property investors, coaches, consultants, and trainers who want to become savvy investors and build a legacy for you and your loved ones. My name is Sapphire Gray, and I'm your host for today. Every week, I bring you different episodes talking about property investments and various business topics on how you can grow as an expert in business. Sometimes we interview clients so that you can learn from them, and also bring you expert speakers from the property or business world. Today, we're going to be talking about why crypto should be your preferred asset. But before I introduce our guest, I want to remind you about a couple of things. If you're new to our podcast, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our other episodes. If you haven't downloaded the Property Investors Toolkit as well, make sure you do that now. You know that following in the footsteps of someone that has already created wealth through property and business is the way to learn. Maybe you've been struggling to know what strategies you should start with, or struggling to find great properties to purchase. Whatever your issue is, there is something you can do about it. And that's why we've created the Property Investors Toolkit. All you need to create a profitable property business that will continuously bring you rewards you deserve. So check it out for only £37. The website to go to is www.savvywomen.co.uk. That's savvywomen.co.uk. And if you scroll down in our show notes, the link will be in there. It's also in our comments on any social media platform as well. It's now time to introduce our guest today, Carol Simon. Welcome.
Hello to everyone. Hello, Sapphire as well. Nice to meet you all.
Excellent. Carol has been married for 27 years and is a mother of two lovely boys. She's an accountant by profession and has spent over 25 years in the financial services. In the last 4 years, Carol has developed a personal interest in crypto, and this year she will be leaving her corporate world to focus on her personal financial freedom whilst helping others to do the same. Again, I'm your host, Sapphire Gray. So let's get started. Carol, thank you again for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So Carol, tell us, the listeners, first of all, what is your background?
So I live in London now, but I was brought up in Cheshire. A family of 7, so a very large family. We didn't have a lot growing up actually, and we didn't really learn a lot about financial management. And I think we were just able to. My dad was a keen saver though, and did believe in saving. At the time was the Building Society, so that's something that was instilled in me from a very young age. Came to London to go to university, did a master's degree, ended up becoming an accountant, as you've already said. Been in the industry now for over 25 years, close to 30 years, and happy to say that this year will be my last year in the corporate world. So I'm looking to enjoy life with my husband and the kids, and to leave a legacy for them.
Excellent. So how did it all start for you then?
So about 2017, one of my sort of friends introduced me to an opportunity. And even though I've been in finance for a long time, I hadn't really thought about money versus currency up until that time. And that's when I began to realize that there were two separate things. And I got reading a book called The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney, and also recognized that the currency that we have in our pockets is losing value every day. And so as a result of that, I joined the opportunity, and that kind of like evolved into the crypto space. So I kind of fell into it by accident really. But since falling into it, I've actually learned a lot over the last few years, and I've realized that it is a good way to preserve value and protect your purchasing power. So I found it to be a very good avenue for creating wealth.
Excellent. So why choose crypto as your preferred asset class and not property like what I do?
Well, I have nothing against property. I think it's fantastic, and that's something I do want to move into as well, actually. But one of the reasons why I've chosen crypto first, I look at various classes, asset classes. So there's property, of course, there's stocks and shares, there's precious metals, there's crypto, digital assets, and there's also currency, which is pounds in your pocket. And when I look at these assets, I look at whether you can save them, whether they're portable, whether they're easily spendable, and whether they appreciate. So for all the asset classes, I mean, property does appreciate. It's not easy to spend though, for example. You know, you have to obviously sell the property and things like that. But with crypto, all those four attributes apply to it. Therefore, for me, you can travel abroad and not have to worry about carrying your house with you, so to speak. You've got your portable wallets. So it just makes it very, very easily accessible and instant access as well. So that's why crypto for me is the number one option.
A lot of people and a lot of our listeners and viewers will be saying, but there could be skeptics and that, and wondering, is crypto safe and what's the real risk involved in it?
Well, that is true. But I think there's a risk in everything you do. There's risk even in crossing the road. Many people, don't get to cross the road, if you see what I mean, and that's unfortunate. But I think the risk is reduced if you have education. So I actually do promote education first. I don't believe that people should just jump into crypto without having any knowledge or understanding of how it all works. And I'm part of a great community called the BBM Academy, and they actually promote education first. And then with the education, you can then mitigate or minimize, the risks within the crypto space. But obviously, in everything you do, there's risk. Even in the mainstream financial institutions, if you look at the mainstream brokers, they always say your money can go up and your money can go down. There's always a risk in investing. So whatever you do, there's always an element of risk. But you can also do things to make sure that the risk is minimized.
I like that answer, because yes, there is a risk in everything. Even investing in property, it could go up, it could go down. It's a case of when it fluctuates. Just look at crypto. My daughter uses this phrase. It's just on sale at the moment, so buy it if you got it. To buy it then, and then
buy the best. Yeah,
that's right. So do you need a lot of money to get started with crypto?
Not necessarily. Obviously, the more capital you have, the more you can earn, of course. But there are many, particularly the development of what they call Internet 4.0, which is the Internet of Money. There are now multiple opportunities, particularly in the sort of like yield farming and staking area, where you can have yields of more than 1,000%, or actually more than 100,000% even. So in one of those, if one was to enter into this space and to participate in one of those projects, they could enter in at just $100 minimum, and all things being equal, i.e. prices not going down but remaining stable or going up, they could end up at the end of 1 year with 100,000. That's quite possible within the crypto space, without doubt.
Oh, brilliant. So can you give us some helpful tips to stay safe in this space then?
Absolutely. So I'm going to harp on about education because I think it's really important. But first and foremost, 100% is educate. So if you don't like soak in the knowledge or learn or understand what crypto is about, then I think it's very difficult to stay safe. And today, actually, quite interestingly enough, one of my coaches gave me an example. So he said, if you're a really overweight individual with a really large beer belly and think you can do 100 press-ups really quickly, that doesn't really work. But if you get rid of the beer belly first of all and then do the press-ups, then obviously you'll succeed. So I think with the education, that's the number one. Apart from that, there's some basic sort of like online sort of rules that you should follow. So for example, just general actually, things like making sure your passwords are safe, because obviously you have hackers and things like that. So make sure you have all your passwords, your seed phrases, and 2FA, which is two-factor authentication. Within the crypto space, there's always normally more than one level of security. And sometimes people forget that they need to keep the code to make sure their two-factor is safe, because if they lose that, then they lose their assets. So one really important thing in the crypto space is to make sure that you recognize that you are responsible for your assets. Really, you become your own bank. And so most people are dependent on somebody else looking after their assets. But this time, because we're in charge, we need to take care of our passwords, take care of our seed phrases, take care of our 2FA, but also make sure, I think people forget as well that when you pass on and you want to pass on to your children and children's children, that they need to know how to get access to your assets as well. So it's not just good enough for you to know them alone, but to make sure that whoever you want to give them to, that they know how to access, your wallets, they know your passcodes and so on. Someone you trust, of course, and also having more than one copy, because if your house burns down and you've got it on a piece of paper, not in a fireproof safe, then again you've lost your assets. So just making sure you take all those things into account, and also
equipment you could use as well to keep it safe.
Oh, so there are things like so you have like cold wallets, and hot wallets. So the safest storage for digital assets is a cold wallet, an offline wallet, and they're very small as well. So that's if you have a significant number of digital assets, you wouldn't want to keep them on an exchange, because that isn't a safe place to leave them. And also, if it's on an exchange that is centralized, and that exchange was to go down, you would lose your assets. So you would keep minimum assets on an exchange, unless you're trading, but keep most of your assets either in a decentralized wallet where you're the one who owns a private key, or in a cold wallet, which is offline. That's the safest way to store your digital assets, really.
But some of our viewers wouldn't even know that language. I understand it, but when you say cold wallet and offline and all these things, they're like, what's she on about?
Okay, well, a cold wallet would look like a USB stick. It's very similar to that. It's very similar to a USB stick. So you can carry it on your key ring, and when you set it up as well, you would have to have what they call a seed phrase, which would normally be a series of 12 words or something, or 24 words. That again you have to store in a separate place, not in the same place as your wallet, because then if someone finds your wallet, they find your keys, that your seed phrase, they can access your funds. So and you normally want to keep them in more than one place. Normally one would suggest like a fireproof safe or something like that, or some safe deposit box, something like that. So at least if anything was to happen in your home, you have a second place to go between those important phrases. Excuse me. Yeah, and also I think if you're looking at projects as well, looking at internet projects and things, should I get involved in this because the APY looks really too high or just looks too good to be true? It's also good to look at the community. Is there a community? Do they have a social media presence, like, for example, Twitter, Discord? Are they on the mainstream sort of publications like Medium? Looking at all these things before you take on a project. Because when I was learning, obviously you learn by your mistakes, but I've been taken in by projects that weren't real. And that's some of the mistakes. That's why education is really important, and otherwise you can lose a lot of money. So it's important just to understand what to look out for, and how to keep yourself safe when you're out there.
I totally agree with that. Education is key, and even and sometimes to really give fair warning what we're talking about today, it also doesn't matter whether they've got a social media present. Really get into them, really, find out and start slowly. I always say when you're doing things like this, always only put in what you can afford to lose.
That's the key. Yeah? Absolutely.
So you have to go the opposite side. Whatever you can afford to lose. So if it's only $50, then only put $50 in there. If you can afford to lose 100, then put 100. But don't risk your house. Don't go out there and say, you know what, this is a real good opportunity. It's the shiny objects that we tend to draw to is the ones that is too good to be true. So please don't do that. And as I said, this is a space of education rather than a space of telling you what to do. So when you're looking at any funding, anything to do with money exchange, always make sure you do your due diligence and you make sure that you look at the people that you want to get involved with educational wise. I brought on Carol because I trust her ability to educate you, and her background alone speaks for her character and where she's coming from. So when you're looking for education, go to someone like Carol who will really assist you in learning from the basics. So you're going to learn from what she's learned, whether it be good, bad, or all the in-betweens. So when you're taking up education, go to someone who's experienced those things and can handhold you through the whole process. Join us after the break with more insights from Carol.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button below. Our podcast is only made possible by great listeners like you.
And welcome back. So we've learned quite a lot from you in our first half. We talked about different tips you can share, the risk involved. Why is it that it's your preferred and why it should be other people's preferred asset class to get into? But what is the point of cryptocurrency?
Good question. A lot of people probably ask that question, and I think it goes back to my earlier point of cryptocurrency being the real money. Back in 1971, the Bretton Woods Agreement. I'm not sure how many people know about that. But that's when the linkage between the money in your pocket, the dollar, and gold was relinquished, and therefore, prior to that, the dollar had real value because it was penned. It was penned to gold. So people could exchange their dollar for physical gold. These days, so after 1971, that disappeared. So, and with the various crises that have happened throughout the years in the 80s, with the banks crisis and also with the war, most governments now are just printing money non-stop, and that means the money in your pocket is just losing value. So your currency is worth nothing really, and some countries the currency has gone to zero. Look at Zimbabwe. One Zimbabwean dollar used to be equal to one US dollar. Now it's $1 trillion are equal to $1. So currency can just disappear overnight, and many have. However, with cryptocurrency, there is a real value to it. It appreciates. If you just think about Bitcoin that came out in 2010, because there's a finite number, number one, that's what gives it value. And also, if anyone who's actually accumulated Bitcoin over a period of time, not necessarily big chunks, but just what one calls dollar cost averaging, just saving, I don't know, 20 quid a month, whatever it is, and they will be in a much better place today, because Bitcoin averages over 150% increase per year. We do see the ups and downs. It happens all the time, but if you look at it over a long period of time, there's always been an increase. So that's why cryptocurrency has value, and there's a point to it, and it also protects your purchasing power. So if you put your fiat, which is your pounds or your dollars or your euros, into an appreciating asset, then you can protect your purchasing power, and that's the point of cryptocurrency.
So what makes it so popular then?
I think crypto is popular because, number one of the main reasons is because the banks aren't offering anything for general public these days. The interest rate is 0.01%, and pensions are losing value as well. Even they're not growing as fast as people would like, and also people are finding when they're ready to retire, they're not having the quality of life that they would like. So therefore, people are seeing there are opportunities outside of the mainstream, and have recognized and seen other people do well in the crypto space, and obviously want to benefit from that. And there's so many things out there for people now that are quite straightforward and quite easy to to join. That it's a lot easier now than it was in 2010. Put it that way.
Excellent. So, I'm a beginner, say, and what would you advise me as a beginner to invest in?
Okay, well, as a beginner, the first thing, and I know I've said this several times, but I'll say it again, is to invest in education, number one. But once you've done that, I would say there's a lot of people get caught up in the sort of like the Shiba Inu coins, or the coins what they call the mem coins, because everyone, and they've got the fear of missing out, and I think that's not the way to go. But as one of the basic things that a beginner can do is just to look at the big coins like Bitcoin and the Ethereum and BNB, because they have the large market cap. They're the main coins basically, and they have good use value. They've got good a track record as well. So one of the first things that someone could do is to start saving in those solid coins, because they've obviously got a lasting life and they've got utility. That was the first thing I would say that people can do. And secondly, I would say also is to start, as you said before, start small. Don't put in more than you can afford to lose. So start small. And if you're going to go into projects again, it's just to make sure that they do fully investigate projects before they come on board. But I also start small and just start with the big coins first, and then also I did have something else I was going to say about that as well.
Isn't Bitcoin expensive to get in? I mean, if someone's starting out, I mean, you're going to just buy like a little fraction of Bitcoin. You can't buy a whole coin, because it's thousands now to get into that.
Indeed. Bitcoin today is around about $43,000. But in the digital space, it's not about owning one. Well, you can work towards owning one whole coin, but you save in increments. So most coins now, you would buy a fraction of a coin. That's quite normal. So even if you own a quarter of a Bitcoin, that still has great value. And if Bitcoin doubles in value, your fraction doubles in value as well. So it's not necessarily about, I can't afford one coin. Nobody
Yeah.
goes out there and goes and buys one coin these days. They go out and they buy fractions of coins
Mm-hmm.
over a period of time. So it goes back to my point of reason why I've gone into cryptocurrency, because you can save in increments. You can buy 0.1, or even 0.01, doesn't really matter how small it is, but you can even £10 worth of Bitcoin is valuable, because
Mm-hmm.
that £10 every single month, every single year will accumulate to one Bitcoin in due course. So yes, you don't need to start with one, you can start with a fraction.
Okay, brilliant. So you're saying Ethereum, Bitcoin, what other coins would you recommend?
The Binance coin as well.
Binance
The Binance, yeah. Solana, Cardano, some of that. So, if you go into websites like coinmarketcap.com or coingecko.com, they also will show you the cryptocurrencies by market cap, i.e., which ones are at the top of the list if you order them in terms of how much. So market cap basically is their share of the whole crypto market. So Bitcoin would be at the top, number one. Ethereum's number two. So if you were to go into something like CoinMarketCap and have a look, then I would say the top 10 would be the ones that you would if you wanted to accumulate, that's what you would do. But there's more to crypto rather than just accumulating it, because when you have coins, you can choose to either trade, you can choose to hold long term, or you can choose to have certain coins that you could then, what they call it staking or yielding, so you can actually put your crypto to work to earn more crypto. And so there's 3 different options really that people can go into in this space.
So how do you actually make money? How do you know, I can put it on my debit card and go to abroad and spend. How do you make money from it? Because that was the thing where when crypto started, Bitcoin came in back in the day, people were saying, well, how the heck are you going to make money from a coin and be able to use the money, take the money off of that? And, you know, how does it actually work?
Well, these days, technology has moved, has advanced so much since 2010. So there's so many platforms these days, exchanges, wallets, that alongside the wallet, you also have a debit card, just like your normal MasterCard or Visa card. And so you don't have to send your cryptocurrency to your bank account. You can leave it in the wallet and spend it as just as money. So that's the portability thing, you know, benefit of having cryptocurrency. And so that answers that question. With regards to making money, so you can just hold a coin, and that increases in value, and therefore you can then within these applications there's a mechanics to move from say a crypto wallet to a fiat wallet within the whole application, and then you can go and spend an element of the equity that you've gained. But there's also other ways of growing your crypto outside of just waiting for it to appreciate. You can, for example, stake. And what that is, I don't want to get too technical here, but there's things like what they call a liquidity pool. So you have the centralized sort of platforms, and you have decentralized platforms. And so when you have a centralized platform, then there's people in charge of that platform, and therefore when you're buying and selling using an exchange that's owned by a central organization. But when you work in a decentralized space, there's no central organization looking after the funds. So what they create what they call liquidity pools. And that means somebody who may own, say, Bitcoin, and somebody else may own a stable coin called USDT, for example. And if you want to sell your Bitcoin and obtain USDT, they will have a pool, we should call a liquidity pool, that has a combination of Bitcoin and USDT. And the functionality of that exchange will allow you to use that exchange to swap your Bitcoin into USDT. And people like you and me can actually put our funds into that pool. And as and when people then go into and exchange their currencies, that pool then pays you the fee. And that's how you can that's one way of making money in the crypto space. And that can be quite lucrative, because you can earn like 3%, 4% per day, depending on the size of the pool and depending on the number of transactions that are going through that pool on every single day. So there's so many options like that within the crypto space, which is why it's become quite lucrative.
So it then leads me nicely into, will it make you rich, and is it really worth it?
Well, will it make you rich? It has made some people rich, definitely, and some people have become crypto millionaires. But I don't think it's wise or sensible to go into crypto thinking you're going to be a millionaire overnight, because you can make the wrong decisions. Yeah. And I think then when you make decisions, then you might be looking through the wrong lenses and then lose all your money. So that's definitely not the thing to do. However, if you combine education with a measured approach within the space, you can become very well off. And is it worth it? Absolutely, because as I said, I've been in this area for now 5 years, about 5 years. But in the last year and a half, where I've actually built up education and also learned a lot about how to use the space effectively, I've got to the point where I can now leave my employment, leave the corporate world, and survive solely on my crypto passive income. So absolutely, it's definitely worth it. And I'd recommend anyone who wants a lifestyle where they are in control, that crypto is definitely an option that they could go for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, Carol, how can our listeners contact you and learn more about your services?
Well, I have a link tree. So it's www.perpetualincomecycle.com. If you just put that into any browser.
Yeah, it will be in our show notes. Yeah, we're giving our listeners all the details. Is there any last words you would like to share, pearls of wisdom to our listeners?
I would say don't be afraid of me. I would say it's always the early adopters who gain the most advantage, put it that way. And I think now that we're in the early stages of Internet 4.0, and even though Bitcoin's been around for 10 years, because technology has advanced so much, this is now definitely the time to get on board and to just explore the world of crypto. There's so much out there, and it's an exciting space to be in, actually, and you can do really well, but just don't forget to educate first before jumping in, and stay safe in the crypto space.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you check out Carol's interesting bio and also her links where she can educate you in this space. Thank you so much, Carol, for being here on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here and imparting your wisdom and your knowledge about crypto and what it can bring and do for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching or listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to rate us, review us, and download and share. Thank you, and I'll see you next week on another property show. Thank you very much.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.